Since 1993, election observation is a concrete and highly visible expression of the European Union's support to human rights, democracy, and the rule of law around the world. Through election observation, their follow-up, political dialogue and electoral assistance, the EU contributes to increase the inclusiveness and resilience of societies, as well as to consolidate effective and accountable institutions in partner countries.
When it is about stabilizing countries, stabilizing fragile democracies, this instrument is a very valuable one. When it is wanted, and we are only going when we are invited, so then we assume there is a willingness, a certain degree of willingness to follow our advice, to follow our recommendations.
The immediate goal of these missions is to strengthen confidence in the elections, deter fraud, and provide an informed and factual assessment of an election process. The methodology followed by the EU is characterized by a long-term presence and high standards of integrity and independence. So, what is the impact of the EU election observations, and how are they supporting democratization processes in the world? We went to Pakistan and Peru to better understand this instrument of the Union's foreign policy. In both countries, EOM recommendations touched upon legislative reforms, the electoral systems, the electoral justice, the campaign finances, the electoral administrations, or the media. Particular attention were paid to institutional independence and transparency, to parties' registration, to candidates' eligibility, to voters' education, to women's participation, to minorities and indigenous peoples' participation. Pakistan has shown remarkable progress in implementing EU electoral observation mission recommendations. Out of 50 recommendations made by the 2013 EU EOM, a total of 36 have been implemented to some extent. Under the leadership of MEP Mikhail Gala, the mission tried to support the already existing transition from a military regime to a civilian government.
When you have to do the practical nitty-gritty of the democracy, you need institutions, you have to follow certain due processes and all. In that context, the EU support was very important.
The recommendations that EU provided in 2013 seem to have received a lot of traction locally. Under the new Election Act 2017, the ECP's independence has been significantly improved. It has complete financial autonomy. It also has disciplinary oversight over the polling officials and returning officers. It has been given powers equivalent to a high court.
The people and the government have realized that we cannot keep the half of the population backward. If women's participation in any polling station is less than 10%, the election can be declared null and void,
Our journey continues to Peru. The EU has been observing the entire electoral process for the third time after 2001 and 2011, accompanying Peru in its return to democracy and political stabilization. The EU commitment goes far beyond Election Day.
Allí, Unión Europea y transparencia confluimos. La necesidad de una reforma electoral. Una reforma electoral que incida sobre los estándares éticos de los candidatos para evitar que personas condenadas por corrupción, narcotráfico, terrorismo o delitos contra la libertad sexual accedan a cargos de elección popular.
Yo creo que de alguna manera beneficiaría de que haya un control externo, como que también daría entre confianza y también limitaría un poquito a que los candidatos pudieran hacer algo que no es debido.
It's a long-term process. Election Day took place in a peaceful and orderly environment. Peruvians were able to cast their votes without any obstacles. The EU recommendations are a valuable support to necessary electoral reforms, further strengthening the Peruvian democracy. Through election observation and their follow-up, the EU is more and more seen as an effective and credible actor in international democratic support. his constant political dialogue with its partner countries and its assistance to the local electoral institutions contribute to reinforce democratic institutions, stability, human rights, and the rule of law. All key values at the core of its foreign policy and development activities. Election observation is indeed an important opportunity for the EU to support countries in their democratization processes.